Hey y'all, it's Wendy from Village Card and Craft. Today I'm going to show you how to use up those ink blended backgrounds to make stunning, easy cards. We're going to use a little mixed media today, but it doesn't have to be scary. It's easy. Let's go. Today I'm starting out with Golden's Extra Heavy Gel Gloss, pops of color in Glitter Silver, Dilution Shimmer Spray, and this fantastic stencil from the Crafter's Workshop called Illusions. I'm also using Distress Oxide inks in Dusty Concord, Stormy Sky, Victorian Velvet, and Lost Shadow. Sometimes we lose inspiration, we lose focus. What do we do next? We're looking at the same supplies, we may not have anything new. So what can we do to the supplies that we have to create new supplies or present them in a different way? That's what my channel is all about, finding inspiration in the things that you love. And for me, it's usually all things Disney. Today is no exception. I found inspiration in a fantastically beautiful spirit jersey that I spotted at Epcot for Festival of the Arts. Let's go make us a card. Here I'm using Michaels brand Artist Loft watercolor paper, the smooth side in 90-pound weight. And I'm going to use some ink blending brushes, and I'm just going to mix it up just like the spirit jersey and just create blobs anywhere you like. Now, I've chosen soft colors here, but you can absolutely go with bright, bold colors if you want. I typically love bold colors, so the more the merrier as far as I'm concerned. Just do what makes you happy. Fill up the whole card as much or as little as you like. If you find this video helpful or enjoyable in any way, please give me some pixie dust by giving me a thumbs up, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. Your ink blending doesn't necessarily need to be blended beautifully. If you remember, in the spirit jersey, it was rather kind of random blobs, not really blended into the next color. Now in my card, I've chosen to blend it a little bit more and get a little bit more pinky purple color rather than the more white, soft gray color. But you do you. Although these colors lend themselves to be soft and muted, that's just not me. So I decided to ramp it up a little and make the ink blending a little heavier and a little darker. You know what they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If whatever artwork you're creating isn't to your liking, keep going. Here, I'm just going to go ahead and use my Wow embossing gun. It has two settings, one for drying, that's option 1, and one for melting, which is option 2. Here I'm drying my ink, so I'm just using option 1 and going to go ahead and dry that a little bit because I'm going to put my mixed media over top of it. And I don't really want it to be incorporated. I want it to be underneath my mixed media. Now for the real fun. I'm using Dilution Shimmer Spray, and I'm just going to mix it up by rubbing it between my hands. And I'm going to give my paper a good spray. I want that shimmery goodness over the entire paper. And I'm going to once again use my Wow heat gun to go ahead and dry it because I'm totally impatient and I want it done. I do find that if you lift the cardstock off of your surface, you will get dried faster. The heat goes right through the paper. I do heat both sides. Obviously it curls, that's okay. The fibers are going to stretch out and settle down after a while, so don't worry about that. Now for the fun part. We're going to get a little mixed media on. Using my Golden Extra Heavy Gel Gloss and onto my mixed media mat, I am going to just use a palette knife and scrape out a little bit. You don't have to really use a lot. A little goes a long way. So maybe a teaspoon I used here? Not really sure. You'll notice that I use some press and seal, and I push that all the way down to the actual gloss that's inside the pod, and then I seal it up. Keep as much air out of there as you can. That way it keeps it from drying out. I'm adding some glitter pops of color, and I'm just going to mix that up until I get the desired look that I am searching for. I'm using a Crafter's Workshop stencil here called Illusions, and I'm going to just put it on my cardstock, flip it over, and I'm going to use a little bit of mint tape to line it up and hold it down. That way my stencil doesn't slide and I get good crisp lines from my mixed media. Back at the inspiration piece, you'll see that there are fireworks, and that's why I selected the stencil that I did. But you can select any stencil here. In this case, Disney has the best fireworks ever, so I wanted to bring that look home. I'm going to use my palette knife and I'm going to scrape my custom stencil butter right through the stencil onto my cardstock. I want it to be a fairly heavy application because I want to get that puffiness that I found in the Spirit jersey, but get it on there as quickly as possible because it does dry quickly, and you don't want it to permanently, I speak so well, adhere to your stencil or your palette knife. So just work it through and then wash it up. And now the reveal, the best part. Now it is stunning, I have to admit, but I do know that this gel gloss will dry back a little. Its base is transparent, so I'm still going to see the ink blending underneath, and that's not the look I was looking for. So I'm going to change it up again. Remember what I said earlier, if at first you don't like it, try again. Now I've gotten rid of all the mixed media stuff because I don't want it drying on my product, and I've switched over to a piece of cardstock and some fine silver glitter, and I'm simply going to sprinkle it over the entire cardstock. It doesn't really matter where it lands. You're going to be able to brush that off later, any excess that you don't want, but I really want a pretty heavy coating of the glitter on top of that gel gloss while it's still wet, because that's what's going to make it adhere. Okay, tap off your excess and then let it dry. Now, I chose to let this dry naturally as opposed to using my heat gun because of my level of impatience. Here, I had something else to occupy my time, so I went ahead and just let it rest. For my sentiment today, I have chosen a SIZZIX Thinlit called Thank You with Hearts, and I've cut that out 3 times in white, and I'm going to use Artist Tack, which is a permanent dry adhesive, to put thousands of little micro dots on the back of my die cuts. This is great stuff, y'all. No mess, works great, lasts forever, and well, what more can I say? It's fantastic. I will leave the link for this stuff down below for sure. Now, while I have cut it out 3 times in white cardstock, I've also cut it out once in holographic silver. And I want that holographic silver to be the top layer. The white is simply to add bulk. It's a less expensive way. I don't have to use all holographic for everything because that tends to be a little on the expensive side. So bulk it up with your white cardstock. I'm just lining it up to make sure that that's where I want it. And once again, I'm going to put Artist Tack on the bottom layer. But this time, I'm also going to add my Barely Art glue. Now this is a really fussy little sentiment. Really scripty scrolly and doesn't have a lot of real estate to put your glue on. But a little bit of the precision art glue that I use will give it just enough wiggle room so that I can line up that sentiment exactly the way that I want it on my cardstock. I did want my card to have a frame, so I cut down my mixed media panel just a little bit, maybe 1/8 of an inch maybe, and then I used another piece of white cardstock and I inked up the edges in Dusty Concord. I'm using a T-ruler and a pair of tweezers to hang on to that sentiment to keep my little fingers off the glue, and I'm just going to line it up right where I want it on the cardstock. It was giving me a little bit of a fit, but that was my own fault, not anything else. I'm giving the thank you sentiment a little bit of pressure so that the glue adheres. Remember, it's not just gluing onto a piece of cardstock, it's gluing over that bumpy mixed media that I have there as well. All that's left now is to adhere my card panel to a card base. In my case, it's A2 size, which is 5.5 by 4.25. This type of card project is super versatile and super easy. And even better, it's fun. Who doesn't love getting to be a little messy in the art room? Anyhow, you can change up your stencils, change up your ink colors, change up your sentiment, and create any type of card that you could possibly want. I will leave a link at the end of the video with some additional videos that I've made in the past, all about creating your own custom stencil butters. I hope you have as much fun as I did today. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you real soon.